couple of days ago, the Kavernacle released a video that called out 3 Breadtubers: Contrapoints, Abigail Thorne of Philosophy Tube, and H-Bomber Guy. In the video, the Kavernacle called out the fact that they have not been as overtly vocal about the ongoing apartheid state in Palestine as they should be, and that they should and could be using their platform to voice a much more grander scale campaign towards stopping the state of Israel from its ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. That basically blew up the entire internet. Today I'm going to cover exactly what has happened, some of the aftermath, and the other creators talking about the same thing. The Kavernacle has also made another video talking about some of the fallout himself, and I'm also going to talk about my views towards the end about all of this. And spoiler, they're going to mirror the Kabernacles, but more on that later. If you're new here, my name is Louise. I run a channel called Matriarchetype. I'm friends with the Kavernacle. We talk a lot on Instagram, and we've even worked on a few videos together. He's a great guy, and I agree with most of his opinions. So let's get into exactly what happened. If you're wondering why I'm profusely sweating, it's because we recently bought a small house in Japan and we haven't had enough money to get aircon yet. So yes, it's really hot out here, it's really humid, and I'm trying to film a video anyway and keep some form of dignity, but at the moment I'm currently failing because I can feel the sweat dripping from the top of my fringe to the bottom of my fringe, which is quite a lot of a state to be traveling, and it feels very odd. Anyway, let's continue. It all started when Taylor Lorenz got into a bit of a Twitter beef with Natalie Wynn, also known as Contrapoints.
It's extremely important to note that 99.9% of the anti-Semitism on this app is from the far right and actual neo-Nazis who Musk has embraced, not communist TikTokers. Natalie saying, left anti-Semitism has always been a thing. I don't see what is gained in denying it. Absolutely, no one is denying that it exists, but it's minimal and fringe compared to the deluge of right-wing anti-Semitism. That's why it's essential to contextualise these comments by making it clear that 99.9% of anti-Semitism on this app is from the far right, and by conflating the scale of the very fringe and limited anti-Semitism on the left with the virtual and pervasive anti-Semitism on the right, you give credence to the bad faith Zionists who continue to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think when your content is being used by a Zionist like Ethan Klein, you might want to consider that your message could have been communicated with more nuance. I don't think this issue is reducible to Hassan versus Ethan. No one mentioned Hassan here. I said if your post is being leveraged by a well-known Zionist, it's probably worth clarifying your message.
The Kavernacle goes into this exact discussion itself, but the main takeaway is that Contrapoints is arguing back to Taylor Lorenz. It's almost, I would say, even childish. It's like calling out a specific word in a whole sentence that didn't really have anything to do with it. It's single sentence replies. Taylor Lorenz's point, basically summed up, to paraphrase, was that if Ethan Klein of the H3 podcast, the man likely to win the award this year of biggest crash out live on TV, is on your side with regards to the Israel and Palestine issue, then you're probably on the wrong side of history, because he is a Zionist. We've seen his views with his insane crash out against Hassan Piker, that he is pro the state of Israel, and he can fluff up his opinions of wanting to say that a genocide is bad, but we live in a situation now where a genocide has been happening for 2 years, and saying it's bad is the least you can do, if not almost insulting at this point. There is one happening. I don't know. Anyway, we'll come back to him. So Taylor Lorenz and Natalie Wynn get into this thing, and the Kavernacle jumps into action and says this is the reason for this video, because there have been a number of different channels that have done this, so this was the main reason to start the video, and he creates this video.
Sometimes political movements, online political movements, they can serve their purpose, and then you can realise their value has kind of gone. And I think that is the case with Breadtube video essayists, and I would also say left-wing video essayists. The Breadtube subreddit is seriously debating whether they should completely ban Contrapoints posts because of what she's been saying about Palestine recently. So a lot of Breadtubers, not just the ones we're talking about, they don't say anything. So that is Contrapoints. So if we move on to another creator, Philosophy Tube has also not really said anything. There is a small reference to Gaza about 20 minutes in a video about how death changes your perspective, but she lumps that in with the COVID pandemic and climate change as these mass death things. So it's not very specific. It's a throwaway line. But I clicked on all of them. It seems they're all deleted. Tweets that said, what could Israel possibly do to get condemned by world leaders at this point? I want to know. if this isn't a war crime, what is left that would be? If you're wondering why the TikTok generation sides so strongly with Palestine, it's because the IDF keeps posting videos where they're destroying children's homes. If you're wondering which country is doing genocide, it's the one trying to dunk on the UN for saying war crimes are bad. So those are all deleted.
So we're going to come back to Contrapoints because this really was the biggest explosion, but let's just quickly briefly touch on Abigail Thorne of PhilosophyTube and H-Bomber Guy. I think there is also a lot to be said for the fact that publishing a video on your main channel and doing the work to like put together a video essay, which are what these people were famous for, video essays, especially in the Breadtube era, it is different to tweets or X's, whatever they're called, or talking on a podcast or saying opinions and different things. Like, if you're known for a certain thing where the majority of your audience take your ethics and your values from, posting a video to your main channel is a kind of way of making it clear with no room for misinterpretation exactly where you stand. So to call out these three creators, at least this is how I understood the Kavernacle's video, is that they haven't quite done that yet. Yes, you can throw it in as a sentence. Yes, you can tweet certain things, but like there's much more weight and there's much more importance in delivering a broken down video essay about what's happening, why it's bad and why it has to stop and what to do. And the lack of that is the issue. So whilst PhilosophyTube and H-Bomber Guy seemed to be less under fire for what's the situation at hand, they have still lacked in doing the same thing. Subsequent to this, PhilosophyTube released a post, as they always do. She always does, about like her patrons. She prints it out on a piece of paper and says thank you, which is great. The comments, however, had a lot of other stuff to say, and whether this had a connection to the Kavernacle or whether this was going on before, we don't quite know. I have a feeling that it's a mix of both, but people were quite overtly saying, talk on Palestine, talk about Palestine, start speaking out about Palestine. Now, some people jumped to Abigail Thorne's defense and says, well, she is an actress now and she's trying to protect her career, and she was even seen liking that exact thing, which the Kavernacle talked about himself. However, your one career isn't really as important as an entire group of people being genocided, and there are also various examples of actors and actresses far more famous than Abigail Thorne may ever get doing just that, being very vocal about the genocide that's happening. So I really kind of don't find that a very good excuse. Anyway, we'll move on. H-Bomber Guy, again, a few fans jumped to his defense saying it takes so long for him to make these videos, like it would just become out of date the minute he starts releasing it, where I kind of find that to be a bit BS as well. Mostly because, look at Sean as an example, released a video on Palestine a year ago, hit over 2 million views, knowing full well that at one point in time will be outdated or whatever. Like, that doesn't really matter, because if you release a video on YouTube, especially a video essay, it is released within the context and time frame of that time. And yes, you can be doing a lot of research beforehand, months in advance for sure, but you can still update a script the day before filming and edit it in a month. You can still add an appendix at the end and say this was filmed at this time period. Please be aware of this next thing that happened next month that I wasn't aware of when filming. You could do a whole bunch of things if you want to. Then there was the third piggy, Little Miss Contrapoints, who released not a video, but a statement on Reddit in which she broke down her views on the current situation, and people had a lot to say.
And you know who's actually distributing the photos of hundreds of dead Palestinian children? Palestinians are. It's not actually the left that's distributing those photos. It's the Palestinians themselves that are speaking out on their own genocide, on their own ethnic cleansing. So to sit there and be like, this is just the woke left being woke by really pushing people to get angry about this documented genocide every single day is a psychotic thing to say. This is the worst thing that she mentions in this entire, and to treat this as like a simple nuisance, something that is causing your day to be worse, something that's giving you blood boiling rage. And then where does that rage go? Against Jews? Like, what kind of statement is this? This is the most politically correct version of saying This is Pallywood that I've ever seen.
Hassan Piker reacted to the statement. It took over an hour on his stream, breaking down exactly the issues. And to sum up in a line, pretty much the issue is that, like, this is Natalie Wynn making it about herself and her feelings. And there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that can't do that now because they are dead. To centralize your own opinions or even your own viewpoints as a minority, as a trans white woman or in any form of minority, is tone deaf and is outrageous, really. John the Duncan even tweeted saying, like, oh, here we go again. Natalie Wynn with her, lukewarm centralist, Zionisty take, or not so progressively leftist take, that kind of thing. He uses so many words I didn't know. I had to Google what they meant. John the Duncan, if you watch this, you're extremely intelligent. Well done for you. Even down to some other creators, again, many that I know and love, but Squid Tips released a video talking about how, Natalie, or Contrapoints was a huge inspiration to him and from his progression towards being less of a liberal to more of a progressive and now an anarchist, as he puts it. And he still supports and understands Contrapoints, but this was a bad take and he can see that.
In 2018, I didn't know what a liberal was, but I was definitely a liberal. At the time, I was just beginning my political education, and I was watching people like Destiny and Vosh, and so she was one of the first video essayists that I was consuming content from. She was teaching me a lot of fundamental philosophical lessons that I was interested in that became the baseline for my current political understanding, which is as an anarchist. The emotion and feeling that I got from her post was that of someone who was afraid and anxious. And that is totally normal and natural in the world that we live in. And I find that in people that have a more liberal outlook, it's especially amplified because their only solutions to problems come around electoral politics or around specific moments in time, like midterm elections. And many people now have rightly pointed out that that seems to be a common feature of a lot of people who are in this leftist content creator space online who have become very successful, especially financially. As much as I would love Contra to be more vocal against the genocide in Gaza on her platform, I can accept that she is not because of the risks that are unique to her as the person that she is. But that doesn't mean she's above critique or that there are not things I think she should learn from this. Personally, I think people giving these types of creators money should expect more in transparency.
I even caught a live stream just before filming this with Dead Domain, where they talked about like the same thing with Contrapoints and the issues with this. And they talked at the very beginning more about like, okay, how do we address the anti-Semitism issue as well as also call out what's happening?
There's nothing nuanced about the Palestine situation. The Israelis have to go. Okay, actually, there is a lot nuanced about it. Like, sorry to say this isn't, you, in a vacuum, yeah, it's super simple to say that, okay, yes, I agree. Palestinians have overwhelmingly been victimized, degraded, living in famously an open air prison. The situation in Gaza is untenable. And then this is me talking. This is me talking. This is my perspective. I've talked about Gaza. I've talked about nothing but support for Palestinians. Fuck Israel. Fuck those genocidal assholes. Every Israeli piece of shit that was making TikToks, making fun of the Gazan mothers that were pulling babies and body parts of their children from rubble. Like, let me be clear. Let me be entirely clear. That having been said, if we can move that down on a second, people have so overlooked the capacity for people to use that platform to spread anti-Semitism, which is something we have seen. That you have people whose only interest in the plight of Gazans, in the act of genocide, of what is happening to those people, their only interest is using that suffering to push anti-Semitism. And to act like, oh, nobody's pushing anti-Semitism here, just because you and other leftists aren't, just because every leftist has spoken out against it, just because people like Jesse and myself have been like, okay, no, we need to draw the line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Because they aren't the same thing.
Like the Kavernacle's point was, like, anti-Semitism on the left does not compare as much of a social issue compared to anti-Semitism on the right, which is insane at the moment. The whole Grok Mecca Hitler thing is happening in the background. Elon Musk is doing Nazi salutes. Ye just released a song called Hail Hitler. And like, we're worried about how much we critique the state of Israel that is, you know, doing war crimes, genociding people, and is in the courts with the ICJ for such war crimes. Like, it's nowhere near comparison, to the point that when you even put the two in conflation, it does seem disingenuous, and that's the kind of problem with what Contrapoints is saying. So it's rippled out into the entirety of Breadtube. People are making their opinions on what Contrapoints has said, and it all kind of, obviously it's been in the pipeline for a long time, but it's kind of been a catalyst that the Kavernacle released the video when he did. Then in response to all this, the Kavernacle released a second video where he tackled some of the arguments back towards Contrapoints, PhilosophyTube, and HBomberGuy.
So I released a video about the death of Breadtube on my channel this week, and the response to it was like far bigger than I would imagine. And also, what was a nice surprise is the response was actually far more positive than I'd imagined. Why are we even talking about that right now? And that kind of plays into some of the criticism I got, where people said I was like downplaying anti-Semitism and shit like that. And when, you know, I really wasn't. I was just talking about left-wing anti-Semitism specifically and focusing on that. Like, at this time, it seems to be the weirdest focus ever, because firstly, that's what the establishment are labeling everyone who is anti-Israel at this point. But also, it's just not something that has institutional power. And it really isn't an issue on the left. Like, it's not 1952 in, like, the communist bloc or something like that. There is just not a significant strain of anti-Semitism in the Western left, specifically online. You see the framing here. Zionism isn't bad. Zionism isn't bad, and there's a difference between Zionists and people who want the genocide. There was literally a poll, and I put it in my original video, and I'll put out the numbers for you. Like, 82% of Israelis supporting terrible shit. And this has been consistent throughout. Like, I made videos just at the start of 2024 where it was like 90% like wanted Israel to keep destroying Gaza and stuff. You cannot separate the majority of people living in Israel for their support for the genocide, and you cannot separate the majority of people who identify with either the Jewish ethnicity or religion, their overwhelming support for the genocide as well.
And he also added in about Jesse Gender, again, another friend of the channel, but at one point, Bad Empanada released this kind of like video calling out Jesse Gender for a bit, again, too much of a lukewarm take about anti-Semitism on the left, and like not calling out the genocide enough. And people even wondered if the Kavernacle had released that video about her, but he kind of clarified, like, not so much, like she's been vocal in other ways, and etc, etc. That's one thing I really do appreciate about the Kavernacle. He's really good at like clarifying his points and saying when something is about someone or isn't about someone else, and making it very clear. So I think that is something we could all kind of take forward, actually. Not many people do that on YouTube.
Because people said that, I did go and research what even this controversy was, and it's about a video she made about like left-wing anti-Semitism. There's a bit in the video where she talks about like how not wanting to have like IDF veterans in your organization or at an event you're hosting is like actual anti-Semitism because people don't have their choice in Israel.
And this then leads to her denouncing boycotts of IDF service members.
There have been examples of leftist groups seeking to ban Israeli Jews from events simply due to their service within the IDF, something that is required for all Israeli citizens living in Israel, regardless of whether they believe in Israel's military mission or not. To then target these Israelis for being in the IDF is just indiscriminately targeting Israeli Jews rather than checking out what they actually believe or are fighting for currently, which many Jews then experience as anti-Semitism.
It did come from this place of you are centering their feelings and their identity and how they feel as this identity, which is just insane considering what they're doing. You wouldn't do that with like any other group of people, but it's like this liberal brainwashing we've had in the West because of how we focus on World War II and how we even talk about anti-Semitism, which makes a lot of leftists who might care about intersectionality, which we all should, makes them overly go in the other direction. Now, Jesse Gender is like so much better on this issue than Contrapoints. I'm not even trying to draw a parallel between them because I've watched her coverage and I've heard her speak about Palestine, and I don't think she's a Zionist in any way.
So that pretty much brings us up to now. I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I think most of this is kind of maybe calmed down, but I don't know. I'm going to sum up a couple of like random thoughts I've had before I get to my like main conclusion. One thing I would say is that, like, I do agree that calling someone out for a take or not making a take or not voicing something is an unfortunate necessity in the world that we live in now, of YouTube, of creators. The good that Breadtube has done in amplifying so many leftist views towards many people that weren't aware of them at the time, myself included, I do think is an important thing. But in an important time like this, when the genocide is happening before our very eyes, if we can't apply that influence, then what good is it for? If that makes sense? Like, yes, we all might be able to, you know, debate the, you know, idiosyncrasies and issues within a Ben Shapiro or John Peterson video, but if we can't, like, push towards our government stopping a genocide of an entire minority or several genocides happening at once, and work towards breaking down the American industrial military complex and the white apartheid state of Israel, like, what good is it? So, unfortunately, if you want to make your money on YouTube by being vocal about political things that are happening and have a wealth of knowledge and influence in doing so, then yeah, I do think being called out from time to time if you don't make good enough points that are, you know, alongside the modern movement towards more progressive and leftist opinions, then that's a necessity of the workload. If you can't handle commenter heat, then stay out of the bread making kitchen. I don't think anyone has ever said that before. No one ever should say it again. To go even further, I would also say that I think, like a video ages ago from Ugopnik said, the leftist YouTube space and the online left in general is made up of lots of different elements and is, for all intents and purposes, a pipeline. And my opinion is that whilst Breadtube was at the forefront at one point, was the vanguard of sharing these leftist understandings and ideologies, Breadtube as a notion is old, outdated, and has moved back within the pipeline. It's now how we get centralist, liberal people to kind of at least hear where we're coming from. Does that make sense? Like, I send my dad PhilosophyTube videos to share with him the bare minimum understanding of what I'm even talking about before he can even discuss things like to what I'm saying. That was the same for me a few years ago. I think it was like 2-3 years ago when I first discovered PhilosophyTube. It blew my mind. It gave me a voice to so many things I didn't quite understand how to explain, and it made me the person I am today. Quite literally, I started a YouTube channel because of PhilosophyTube. I met Abigail Thorne at Trans Pride, and I said that very thing to her, and her response was, "Oh, I'm sorry," which is still the funniest thing today ever. But I now would be able to watch various videos of PhilosophyTube, understand them differently, even critique some of them, and understand where my opinions fall in line. Because I believe I've gone further down the pipeline than I was when I was originally watching her. Not saying I'm more leftist than Abigail Thorne, I don't know where her personal political things stand. But the me that watched her media at a certain time to now is definitely more leftist now. I understand what I'm talking about. It's like what Squid Tip said about Contrapoints. For going from a liberal, a centralist, to understanding themselves to be an anarchist proves that you have to learn what an anarchist is and what it really stands for before you can get to that point. Breadtube is an educational tool that now lives in the archives of YouTube, yes, but it doesn't mean it's any less important. However, what's more important now are the channels that are talking about ongoing things that are actually important in this day. I believe the pipeline is growing along with time as well. It's like a crazy time chronology thing. Like the leftist pipeline 2 years ago is different now. Absolutely, of course, the world is different. And I always say this on this channel, but we live in absolutely crazy, perilous times. It's hot. The world is literally burning. There are climate crisis scientists that are saying it's finished, it's done, there's no going back. Prepare for the worst, we can't fix what's happening. All the meantime, Trump is doing whatever the hell he likes. Here in Japan, I'm doing a video about this after if I don't melt beforehand, but the far right have made an absolute comeback, and it's petrifying as an immigrant living here. In the UK, it's now illegal to say you're on the side of Palestine action, and you can be arrested because they're classed as a terrorist group. And for Contrapoints to make a video about how she's upset about this situation, or her feelings, her stance in it, is tone deaf, is unrelatable, is demonic. I do think so. I think it's a sad sign of the times. All this to say that the positions of people at different parts of the pipeline are important. I think so. And this isn't a call for us to cancel Contrapoints. She's been cancelled like twice. She ain't going anywhere. But like, let them be who they are. Yes, they have lukewarm centralist takes, but we don't have to evangelically believe everything they say, watch everything they do, and believe and agree with everything that they release. We can think for ourselves, and I think that's what's starting to happen. And many people that agreed with the Kavernacle's video are saying just that, like, yes, thank you for giving me a voice to what I had thought for a while now. Some of PhilosophyTube's videos where she's just sticking things on a wall, to me, is not the PhilosophyTube I fell in love with. I'm sorry, I know budgets are a budget, good for you in House of Dragon, but like, it doesn't quite do the same thing as the 5 different outfit changes or the amazing set design. Like, that to me was something that helped me keep my way through a video. Right now, I can't say I'm doing the same, but that's just me, and that's okay. And there are other people that are probably enjoying PhilosophyTube's videos now more than ever, and that's great. We should be able to do that. I think that's wonderful. Remember, we're all in the bubble of the center left to left, and let's remember that we're at least not on the right, and we're not in the cult of the right where you can be Trump and you can clearly be, allegedly, in my opinion, in the Epstein files, say that the client list doesn't exist and completely destroy the idea of your base believing in you and just be a cult, and they're just, I don't even know what the hell they are. Yes, there is infighting in the left. Yes, we can't always agree, but maybe that's actually a good thing. Maybe we shouldn't advocate for a world in which everyone has to agree wholeheartedly and go into something. Being able to voice, actually say, I disagree with this, let's find another way around this, I think is an important thing. Now she's just waffling, I'm also really quiet in my house because we live in a Japanese neighborhood, and then whenever I do a video, I'm like the loudest I've ever been. I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder what my neighbors are thinking. Whew.
Some guy says here, this is so funny to me, this is what it is like being a YouTuber. You read stuff about yourself from other people and it's like the complete opposite of what you've actually said. So I used to watch this guy's content a lot, Doubt, but man, then I realised he started talking ridiculous tanky shit and he was getting more insufferable by the day. The final straw for me was when he went to Japan and he unironically talked about the place like it was some utopia, even though it's one of the most capitalist and consumerist countries on the planet. Guy has his own massive blind spots. I really do not understand how you could get so hung up on a point like that. And it's just the complete opposite of what I've said. So what happened when I came back from Japan, this is just a small caveat. I made a video about how it was like on the surface really cool, but hiding like a darker element. I made a video about me and Hassan went at the same time. So I talked about how he was praising it a lot and I talked about all the problems. I made another video about Japanese work culture with Matriarchetype, who is an English YouTuber who now lives in Japan, and she spoke at length about the toxic work culture.
If you stuck around to the end, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. I am in my rural Japanese house that we're renovating right now. If you want to learn more about that, I have released some updates on my Patreon. Please do check it out if you can. I know times are tough, no worries if not. If you do like this video, do the same thing as you know to do. Watching it to the end really helps. Going to my channel and watching some other stuff really helps. And it's a free way you can really support me if you enjoyed this and you want to. No worries if not. No shade, no tea. Coming up, because I'm probably going to film it after this, I'm going to do a video about that far-right party in Japan. So if you're interested, do subscribe, like go to the all bell thing, and you should see it next popping up on your channel. I would really appreciate to see you there. Thank you very much. Well done to the Kavernacle again for a fantastic video. My love to Squid Tips and the gang as well. Jesse Linda, I love you. Dead Domain as well, they are so cool. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around. I love you all. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Free Palestine.